triumph in the trap.
This is for the dollar.
Do you believe in miracles?
Hey, I play chess, but only in 4D. I'm by myself, but they think I'm 4D. When they see me online, they think they know me. Go ahead, like and subscribe, you gotta show me. I applied pressure and they tried to reject it. Clearly ain't see I was a diamond, so they didn't accept it. Told me I was a failure, so I said F it. Might even start my own school and teach them a lesson. Yeah, I'ma call it South Harmon. Fly down south and get the South poppin'. One day I'ma give you a walkthrough and introduce you to this warp tool. I know you lost, that's just dynasty talk. Cause you can't start no franchise without no dynasty chart. I took a break from the game, they throw my dynasty stock. Till I came back like Wembanyama, I feel like Coach Pop. I can't say that I'm the GOAT, cause you ain't gonna agree. But if I own my own farm, I can make the GOAT. Me, the ladies love the beard and they used to love the goatee. That's when I was a lamb, burning music on CDs. I wasn't born in 88, December 87, that was 16 days away. Might fly to Dallas, why not? I just got paid today. When I land this Dirk statue, I came to fade away. Check the timeline for the stories and the play-by-play. My life a Patreon link, you gotta pay to play. I work 16 hours, boy, that's an 8 and 8. X Factor like Dez Bryant, my boy 88. Why dream light when you living like a heavyweight? This ain't a 1 week thing, we grind like every day. They know my destination, Devi, like I hang with Ray. If they ain't know my name, I bet they know my name today. Treat this mic like a ATM, let's make a trade today. Drop this on Fizzle Friday, cause that's my favorite day. And I'm gonna do it my way, cause that's my favorite way. They tried to put me on the shelf like I'm layaway. Told me it ain't no way, so I made a way. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, I'm glad you here today. Hit that Patreon link if you here to stay, Treat this mic like an ATM, let's make a trade today.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back into another edition of the 40 Chess Dynasty Football Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're a patron watching it live, which is a benefit the patrons get, or whether you're listening to this recorded version on the podcast feed or watching the video on Friday when it drops. Thank you so much. Adam, buddy, how you doing, man? Week 2 in the books. Week 2 in the books. A little announcement, too, for the people who are in here. By Friday, people already know this, but we're going to start doing AMAs on Wednesdays. Schedule just works out better. Not competing with the juggernaut that is Dynasty Trades in 5 as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, you know, for me, too, Mike, it's a little extra day to kind of think of kind of transitioning into next week. You know, right. There's also, I think a thing that we do, Mike, is we do the Sunday recap, which is our kind of like knee-jerk reactions or like immediate thoughts. Yeah. Then now we have Wednesday where we come a little more. We've had the, you know, what we thought of right away. We've had a few days to think it out. Now we're thinking, all right, we're looking at next week now. It's no longer giving you the recap. It's, all right, where did we screw up? Where are we wrong on the take? And how do we move forward and get better for next week? So I think that's why the breakdown works a little better.
That was a very eloquent way of saying the post-nut clarity.
There you go. That's actually you know, a more South Harmon way to say it. You know, the post-nut clarity.
That's more of us.
Yeah,
more of us.
That's more us. I like that.
Adam, the first thing I got for you here, right? We do so much strategy and stuff here, but so much of Dynasty anymore is becoming psychology, buddy. Like, and you've hit on it on numerous amounts of episodes, but psychology. Yeah. And the one thing psychologically I think there's going to be a lot of people struggling with, and I'm in the same spot with quite a few teams, right? Those contender teams that are sitting at 0-2.
Speaking of post-nut clarity, this is the opposite. Ooh. This would be nut cutting time, buddy.
Right.
It's put up or shut up, you know, shit or get off the pot, whatever you want to say. Here's the thing, Mike. I do think that this is actually a really good thing. I want to just touch on this. 0-2, right? it's similar to like the NFL. All right, 0-2. You got these teams that are 0-2. You know,
you're the Chargers. Right.
I was just gonna say you're Staley, right? You're Staley getting questions about the Jaguars game from last year, and he's freaking out on the podium because it's uneasy, right? It's uneasy, but if you correct things in week 3, you're 1-2. All of a sudden, that 0-2 feeling, it's a major relief, right? But I think the one thing to remember is you're not necessarily done at 0-3. But when you get to 0-3 now, it's like that treadmill went from a little uphill to bam, like you just lifted it significantly because now you're room for error, right? Especially you don't know what your schedule's like, how many teams you're going to be playing that are actually competent versus cakewalks. 0-3 is a totally different thing than 0-2, so I think it's actually a good time to talk about it.
It is. I got one where I thought I was an uber contender going in. Now, thankfully, our strategies from last year have evolved where we're holding on to our draft picks for moments like these. So you're not sitting here at 0-2 going, I ain't got a 24 first or second, son of a bitch. Like, oh, I'm so screwed. You don't want to be in that position because that's even worse. But I still got my picks in the league that I got pulled up here, Adam, where I was an uber contender. Now, the only thing that's like pulling me back off the ledge, the only thing is when I look at points against and like I'm by far and away just getting hammered every single fucking week. Like I play the number 1 team, it seems like every damn week so far this season. Now, we can't get a W to save my life. But hey, points for looks pretty good. Points against looks horrible for me. And we're down here at 0-2, 9th place in the league. Woo! It doesn't get much rosier either, Adam, because talk about the luck. Prayers up for Nick Chubb and his health ultimately, but yeah, he's done for the year for me. Maybe done for his career for me as far as Dynasty goes. And yeah, I also got Saquon Barkley on this team, so just shoot me. Damn it.
This though, Mike, I think this is actually a point. Now, let me just say, the RIP for Nick Chubb. It's one of those where, like, watching Nick Chubb as long as I have as a Browns fan. Now, if you're a big Georgia fan, I watched him in Georgia, but I didn't watch him religiously like some of the Georgia guys probably did.
Right.
But I know this about him, the way he plays. First of all, he is a hard hat lunch pail type of guy, right? He just shows up. He is the perfect. Like, if you were to tell me you have a superstar Nick Chubb and that's what you have and you have his role, like that's the perfect thing for a coach, right? He's literally the epitome of non-diva, the opposite. Yeah. He does not ever, even when he gets like banged up, he does not ever make any type of, screams, groans, emotions, or showing any sign of weakness. When I just saw initially when, it's him and Minka on the ground, at first I'm thinking, like, is that Minka? Like, who's? I'm worried. And when I officially see that it's Chubb, like, yelling out, like, I know already in my heart, like, this is not good.
Bad.
Like, I that was my first, like, this is really not good. Like, I'm hoping that it's just like an Austin Eckler type thing. Like, maybe it's like a hammy, because I didn't see the hit clearly. So I'm thinking maybe like a hamstring off the bone, something maybe he could still recover by the end of the year. And then when they won't show you the hits, you're just like, okay, it's a wrap. Like, anytime that happens, it's done for, and sucks to see.
That was reminiscent of Willis McGahee back in the day. That
Very
Ohio
much so.
State Miami national championship game. I think it was like 2002.
Yeah, 2002. Yep.
Not a pretty one to see. A pretty one to see. But yeah, so back to the team, man.
I was going to say, I wanted to get that out. I had to get that out. But for the strategy side now, I had a team, Mike. I had a team like this last year, and one of those teams where we looked at it plenty of times. Before we started really pushing heavy content, right? Where we do a ton of DM back and forth, and we looked at it like, you're set. Like maybe you want to add a QB3 insurance, but this team is just this is loaded to the tits or something we'll call it, right? Like you're good, and this team ends up being one of those that everything that you could have go wrong, maybe not everything, but damn near, right?
Yep.
It all happens at once, and this is why, Mike, I think sometimes you have to take a step back. And some of the stuff we preach in the summer and the off season, which is an incredibly long feeling time. Not only is it actually incredibly long, but it feels incredibly long.
Yeah.
And you get disconnected from what actually happens on the field. And it's like, listen, you roster constructed appropriately, right? You could have a team where you say, hey, listen, I got Chubb and I got Barkley, and then I got basically all these running backs on a 53. I've got receivers, but maybe you had Cooper Kupp. Maybe you had, Nick Chubb and you had Saquon Barkley. All of a sudden, Mike, we're going into week 3, and forget what your record is. Like, forget what your record is. You're already kind of like, this ain't good. And it's nothing you did. And this is why we talk about so much how, especially in lineup leagues, Mike, the pick liquidity is such a big deal having your own, because
it's massive.
Your flexibility goes away, and that is nothing. That is not your fault, right? Like, that is going to happen to, if you have a 1, 2, 5, 50 teams, it's going to happen to teams. That's randomness. That's part of the game. So I do think, going into week 3, I mean, it always comes a point where we have to talk about this. It's just, it's hitting earlier, it feels like.
Well, too, I mean, you're talking about it too with lineup versus best ball and these predicaments that you get in earlier, and how much more important, and to be completely honest, having your picks, the ability to pivot in a lineup league, I would say is probably 10 times more important, because you have that added layer of variance in lineup leagues that you don't account for in best ball leagues. You don't have to worry about it. And that's actually starting guys. So another reason, 0-2, right? Week 1, I start Kyle Pitts. How'd that go for me? Shit. Week 1, Breece Hall sitting on my bench. Not in my lineup. Not in the flex spot. Week 2, what happens? I put Breece Hall in the lineup.
AWoRP.
0.9 points, right?
As he said, the reason they struggled is because I had 4 touches.
Right.
I mean, it's not funny, but it is. I feel his frustration,
You talked about being roster constructed correctly, right? Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson as quarterbacks. My third option is Dak Prescott. Right? Wouldn't I have rather started Dak Prescott those first couple weeks? Yeah, but not how it works out, right? You play this lineup variance. Best ball, you don't have to worry about it. The best person's in the lineup every single week. So not only do you have to deal with injuries, not only do you have to deal with the variance of your head-to-head matchup and the fact that you just get piss-pounded by somebody 2 weeks in a row, you now got this extra layer of, did I actually start the right fucking guys? Was my good player sitting on the bench? Do I have bad players in my lineup? It's just the way it is. And I think holding on to your draft picks in a lineup league is probably going to be the hard lesson that we just lock in as concrete now. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the one where you go, yeah. I mean, the deal has to be so damn over the top in your favor, right? So damn over the top. Like, you got a chance to get Patrick Mahomes for, 80%. Okay, push your picks in. Go for it. But in reality, Patrick Mahomes could underperform. Patrick Mahomes could have an injury in a lineup league, and then you're just right back to the same thing where you go, well, this year's fucked. I gifted somebody an early pick, and, Patrick Mahomes is still good. Still going to be an elite dynasty asset, Adam, but damn, would have been nice to have that flexibility. Would have been nice to have that in season where I could have replaced him with a Goff. Could have replaced, could have replaced the quarterback. Not saying Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have been on your team in this scenario, but whoever the hell the other guy was, if he went down and got hurt, I could have replaced him if I still had pick liquidity. Now I don't. I don't have shit. Now I got to trade Patrick Mahomes at a discount. Somebody knows, fuck, I want to compete. I don't have my draft picks. Yeah, I'll take Patrick Mahomes, but, you're going to have to tear down. Hope you like Justin Herbert straight up. This is the best I'm going to give you, right?
Well, I think
it's this kind of shit.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, too, is, one of the things that's interesting about lineup for me, Mike, and not that I didn't know this, but the more you play, and the more leagues you play and the more you see teams, how they're beating you, right, when you end up having a bad year. One of the things that's interesting about the having of your own pick liquidity is where I actually, we talked a lot in our early days about, picking a direction. I still really believe that, but I think in lineup, the timing of picking a direction is so crucial. Like, picking a direction too early is a detriment, honestly. Now, you can get away with it, right? You can absolutely get away with it, but it's a detriment to you as far as your flexibility. One of the things that's actually not picking a direction early is, Mike, you kind of have a chance to sit back and watch. And sometimes these teams that you think in January, like when you're looking, all right, next year, like this is going to be a juggernaut. And then all of a sudden the season comes around September. All right, like this team's still going to be loaded. And then it's early September, they catch a couple bugs, and you're like, maybe it's a little, right? It's not invincible, right? Yep, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there and it's literally October, November, and they're having to make serious decisions about dynasty assets because they're not going to make the playoffs or they don't feel very good about going to the playoffs. Now you have liquidity, which they may not really have a good chance to get to. So it's one of those things where it's like a double-edged sword with you miss out on opportunities to use it later, and you also handicap yourself if things go wrong. So really good time to talk about that, I think.
Yeah, it's 2-2 because we talk about it. Yeah, I'll pun that one. 2-2 right there. Assets like that. 2-2 Atwell, Kyron Williams, right? 2 Rams guys. Brian Robinson, like Robert Woods, surprise in best ball. Kendrick Bourne, you just did a fantastic, go check that on YouTube. You just dropped a fantastic one today, with dynasty buys. Adam, I think it's always something that we got to remember too when we're talking about those. Here today, gone tomorrow, right? Like, does Kyron Williams look like a great buy right now? Yeah. Do I want to send out some offers for him? Yeah. How much, though, do I want to tax my liquidity? Because, to be completely honest, Adam, if Kyron comes out next week and gets hurt and doesn't do shit, I just blew all that. I blew all that for this, eating the fast food, right? Because I was hungry. I needed it right now. I couldn't wait. Couldn't go home and make a proper meal. So I spent it all on a, McDouble. Right? Just went for the cheapest. Here we go. I need it right now. I wanted that convenience. I think that's something that we also have to keep in mind, especially for lineup leagues where it's so imperative for this liquidity, this pick liquidity and having it. And sadly to say, like, as we're going on through the season, these handful of lineup leagues, I think I had 3 lineup leagues, dynasty lineup leagues, right? This isn't redraft or anything that I'm doing from that aspect, but 3 of them where I was going to be competitive in. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, these teams are good heading into the season. Yeah. I got one of them that's undefeated and the other 2 don't have a fucking win yet. This is where we're at. So it's just welcome back to fantasy football. Welcome back to getting kicked in the balls.
Yeah, we got plenty of that here on the shit show. 40 Chess Dynasty Podcast, man. I think, Mike, let me say this, kind of talking about some of these injuries and pick liquidity. I think at this time too, one of the things that you have to remember is, I think a couple things. I dropped a video today on YouTube talking about, dynasty buys. Sometimes I think too, there's also a little bit of patience you have to have, right? Like, now, if you lose, like in this scenario, Mike, let's give the actual, like, real life example. So you have Chubb done for the year. You got Barkley. You're dealing with an injury. What else do you have specifically on this team that's hurt?
Oh yeah, like I said, Deshaun Watson's been in the starting lineup for the first 2 weeks.
He's not been good, right?
Lamar Jackson has not been good.
He had a better week this last week, but he has not been Lamar Jackson. To your point, yes.
Yeah, started Kyle Pitts week 1. Didn't make the mistake this last week, thankfully.
Right. But you still have Pitts as a chip, right? Even if you don't want to play him, you have him as a chip. You have Breece Hall, who, I mean, I would hope that this is someone that's going to continue to get more touches after seeing what happened last week. You have still 2 very good quarterbacks as far as value, right? Like, whether they end up being smashes this season, we don't know. Yep. So this is where I think, Mike, and I don't know let's talk about the rest of your teams, like your receivers, your picks. Let's go through the whole thing. Let's give a real live time example of, what you can do and how to practice patience, or is it time to, panic?
Oh, I get you. Quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, and then Mr. Sam Darnold just kind of hanging out.
Okay, well, there you go. So you already have a mini quarterback horde going.
Yep. Running backs were Barkley, Breece Hall, Nick Chubb now on IR, Kenneth Gainwell, Kendre Miller, Miles Sanders, Dalvin Cook, and before you get on me for handcuffing, this was Dalvin Cook wasn't he's been on my team for a minute. Right?
Listen, I'm not gonna be. We're past the days of worrying about handcuffing, dude. We're good. No handcuffing in the club. Okay.
Charbonnet hasn't done it, so you got some rookies in the backbone.
All right, and then go ahead.
Wide receivers: Brandon Aiyuk, Terry McLaurin, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Rashad Bateman. I guess you can kind of throw in there, and nobody else that really matters.
Okay,
Jalen Hyatt on the taxi squad. Let's go.
And you have tight end, you just have Pitts?
No. This is a league I've been desperately trying to get off tight ends because it's 0.75 tight end premium. Like, they're okay. You can start them in the flex, Adam. Like, you really can. But the whole AWoRP life, it's one that I was trying to transition, and it's a hard sell for some people.
Yeah, it is, man.
Unless you take that Koopa discount, you know, where it's like Kyle Pitts for any second. I'm good. Good. Just can't bring myself to it. So, Pitts, AWoRP God, TJ Hawkinson. So, thank you for keeping me afloat, TJ. He's been a fucking stud for the first couple weeks. David Njoku, Dalton Schultz are the tight end room.
Okay. I mean, so, all right. Well, this is one of those, I think, this is a perfect, what I was going to talk about. Patience, right? So,
a goon squad that's faltering, and you look at it and you see just the 0-2 part, and you start to shit your pants, but
sure.
You got to dive into it.
Right, but then, okay. Like, this is where, and how many are we starting?
11. Start 11.
Okay. So, not super shallow, but it's not like crazy starters.
Probably about the most vanilla, like, Superflex lineup league that you can get to, right? The only caveat is 0.75 tight end premium versus what most
and
people
full PPR and no other bonuses. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, this team, Mike, first of all, this is why in lineup, and let's talk through this, right? So you're going to have Barkley. We don't know exactly we don't have a ruling on Barkley yet, do we?
No, but they say he's got a chance to play Thursday night. I think that's bullshit. Like,
they're going to say that.
Chances in 2 weeks, yeah.
Now, I think the good news is we're talking about him possibly missing the IR list, and at the same time, I don't even know. Like, if it's a high ankle, like, it's one of those where you come back and you don't even know.
He's also missing out on some tough matchups where, like, you're going to start Saquon Barkley because it's Saquon Barkley,
right?
But it's, you know, Thursday night against the Niners defense. Fuck.
Well, it's also one of these things.
You just know it's going bad.
Like, I know the way he is, he's going to get out there as soon as he can. But the way I'm approaching my fantasy and dynasty teams, go ahead and get that extra rest, man. Go ahead and give yourself that, you know, when you're ready, come back. I don't need to be putting you in there when you're going to, you know, go out and have a dud week. But this is the part that I want to get to, Mike. This is why it's so important to really not overbuild at the running back position, right? Because you get more hits, more chances of landmines. Like, it's basically the running back field the way I look at it, and this is in lineup. You have these great running backs that we love, right? And when they hit, they smash. We've seen plenty of these guys be league winners, be game-breaking talents that can change, you know, the landscape even in a full PPR league. But Mike, it's like a you know, walking in a giant landmine, and you don't know where it is. But any given time you can step on one, and the more chances you have, the more, you know, landmines you have out there on the field, you're going to hit more. And like, it's just odds at that point. So you get hit with two of these, but the great part is you already backfilled with a lot of other running backs that, you know, Charbonnet, for example, right? This is where the running back position is so good is Charbonnet, he may be completely irrelevant. This isn't just Charbonnet. This is guys like him. Kendre Miller, you could name a bunch of other people. I mean, he could be irrelevant for 8-10 weeks. It could be the Kenneth Walker show. And then what happens? Like, Kenneth Walker gets a, you know, high ankle sprain or something. Knock on wood. I'm wishing no ill will on, but I have plenty of Kenneth Walker. But, like, this is why you backfill with all those, because then all of a sudden, like, you don't have to replace Saquon Barkley with, you know, I got to figure out a way to get a running back for a first and a second or 2 firsts, right? You don't have to go buy Nick Chubb. You can play it weekly, and you have, Mike, I think the biggest thing you have is you have the 4 quarterbacks, and I think right now is actually where it's not just patience. I think, Mike, in a way, this is almost pushes you a little bit. If I was managing this team, just things to think about. Maybe this is where I try to see, like, what I can do at the quarterback pushing those chips in, right? Like, what if I get rid of a Watson or a Lamar or, you know, a Dak, right? Like, someone that's really needed a quarterback. Can I test them? And I think the one thing I'm doing is trying to see what I can leverage with quarterback. I'm going to see then also, like, is there a way I can step up to a higher end receiver, especially start 11, right? So you're looking at in this, well, you can start 5 receivers, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, you know, you have a decent amount of depth, but like I mentioned, you had Bateman. 6?
Start 6. Start 6.
So, like, Bateman, right? That's a guy I'm looking to see if I can package up, get up from him, right?
Get something else.
And I think you have enough running back depth to where, like, weekly you're not going to feel maybe that great in week 3. But I think there's things you can do. See, what I love about this is, and talking about this, and it goes hand in hand with the flexibility conversation. Like, we haven't even talked about your picks. I don't even have to know the answer right now. But none of this that we're discussing is even messing with that. Right?
Yeah,
like,
there's
depending on what you have as at your disposal, there's ways that you can tweak and fix in season, you know, based on how you've done things. And if you're like us, and even if it's not a full quarterback horde, you got 4.
Yeah,
that's stuff that you can, you know, play around with. There's tight ends there, right? Like, Mike, can you package up, you know, David Njoku, Rashad Bateman, and throw in Dak, and what can that get you at some table?
Yeah, true.
You know,
and
like,
you might be able to
all of a sudden you could be having a discussion of like, shit, that should be able to get you in start 11 a lot.
Yeah,
just on market, right? Like doing shit like that.
This is the crazy thing too. Like, just how weird sometimes variance, we talk about it. You can't ever really describe it until you actually see it, right? We talk about this team, I list off the roster, and you go, oh, it's not too bad. You know, you've had some bad luck, whatever. This team's sitting at 0-2 and in 9th place. The team that's in 2nd place in this league, 2-0, starting quarterbacks, Adam. And I'm not even going to say starting quarterbacks. The only quarterbacks on the fucking roster, Ryan Tannehill and Josh Dobbs. Think about that. This team's undefeated, number 2 in the league. Talk about
so that's also that's kind of a
right
poser too, though, right? Like, odds of this person without making some trades, like staying like 2-0 can become 2-2 and 2-4 in a hurry if your quarterbacks are like that, right? Dobbs, I mean, last game he balled out for fantasy. Kind of crazy to see.
And Tannehill was efficient, right? Didn't make a whole lot of bad plays.
I think that's kind of be what Tannehill's good games look like, right? He was efficient.
Yeah. Old school Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah,
what we used to love about Ryan Tannehill.
Right.
It was like sneaky QB2, perfect QB3 for you. That was Ryan Tannehill last week. Yeah. It's just nuts, just how, you know, we've had bad quarterback performances from some of the top guys. Looking at the AWoRP for the league, Adam, too, like just on the quarterback landscape, this is kind of interesting. Even though the names are pretty up there, but AWoRP, right? Because it's a lineup league. You can look on some of these other poser warp tools if you want, but we're the only ones that got AWoRP, baby. Shout out to Koopa and all the hard work he does.
Yeah, man. We got other things. We got other things with warp in the works too. So stay tuned to that, man.
Let's go, Russ. Number 1, Dynasty buy for you there, buddy. Dynasty buy, Mr. Unlimited, number 1 in AWoRP.
What I try to tell you, man. It's funny. Koopa was like, "Hey, man, if you're gonna do a video, just like let me know, and I'll maybe see if I could run it a little quicker, get it to you, so you could put it in there." I'm like, say less. Next week we'll run that. But I just had a feeling. You know, I didn't know it was gonna be 1, but it's amazing to me.
2.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk, sitting there number 2.
Kirk's always been kind of sneaky, man.
He's always been sneaky good too. Like, right. I think it'll probably come down. You know, if they can, I think it probably would come down. But they just can't run the football to save their fucking life, man. It's just going to be all about Addison, Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and you know, fuck Madison, fuck Ty Chandler at this point. Like, we're just throwing the ball 50 times a game. This is what we're going to do.
I mean, in a way, though, Mike, I mean, the Cook thing made sense to move on from him in general. But if you knew kind of like your run game was going to struggle, right. You know, like you're kind of just going to abandon that department. Like, there's no – you're going to need a very good running back, I think, Mike, to make – like, that offensive line doesn't seem to be great either. So,
no.
You're not going to just, you know, go buy some running back on the market, even in a cheap market that's going to come in and fix this thing, right? So,
yeah.
This is just the way they're going to have to play this year. And I don't know that this is going to be different for another year, for another season after that for the Vikings too.
Yeah, kind of interested. I'm really want to see the AWoRP after like 3 weeks and 4 weeks to get a better trend of the graph, because we got
4 weeks is for me, like, I think going to be the kind of that sweet spot where we have enough to really start talking, you know, a big sample size.
You got guys at like Herbert at 3, Mahomes at 4, Jalen Hurts at 5. Okay, right. The one that I think is probably the biggest poser out of this whole group, like for those of you listening, he's played really well. Let me acknowledge the fact that I think he's played really well. But talking with Maddie on the South Harmon Spotlight, we kind of touched on this a little bit too. Jordan Love. Like, Jordan Love has played really, really well, okay? But that touchdown rate is like ridiculously off the charts. You want to talk about outliers? I think Maddie hit me with the stat. It's like 11.1% touchdown rate, which, you know, in Peyton Manning's record-breaking season, it was like 9 point something. So, you know, that shit's coming down.
Well,
it's coming down hard.
I don't know, Mike. Sometimes it feels
unless you're saying Jordan Love's breaking the all-time touchdown record for passing.
Mike, there are sometimes
which fucking might happen, I guess.
The last 2 years, there have been some topics which I really, I'd say, oppose strongly. And there's just logic goes out the window. It's just like it's gonna happen.
It's whatever.
It's gonna happen.
Let's go.
I mean, you know, just laws of mathematics. It doesn't seem likely. Yeah. Now, I'll say this: like, there's definitely things to be concerned about with Jordan Love. At the same time, though, Mike, there's plenty for me to say, hey, this kid is, you know, getting his first, you know, chops in the NFL. Like, really doesn't. I mean, Christian Watson still hasn't played. Like, I could also make just as strong of a case at this point to where not that the regression won't come there, but that there's better days ahead for him as a just volume passer. Like, I mean,
deeper targets, more yards, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Last week he's, you know, versus the Falcons, he's 15 for 24. It's like he's trying to get the ball to Jaden Reed and Wicks. That's not ideal for any young quarterback, right?
Not entirely his fault too, because the Falcons really take the air out of the football.
They sure do.
I always like that term, right? They take the air out of the football.
On both sides of the ball, right?
Literally, and they take the air out of a a lot of things.
Yeah,
like make you very flaccid.
Arthur Smith, like that handshake. You know, watching him and just like I'm thinking, there's no coach that likes to go whether they win or lose. Like, hey, Arthur Smith, like, you know,
right? That
was a fun game we just played.
How about A-Rich there, QB8, and he didn't even play for 3/4 of this last game. QB8 and AWoRP.
I'm not one to gloat, so I'll let you.
Well, go ahead. You go ahead and gloat, because I'll gloat about QB9.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
What's up, McCorkle? What's up, McCorkle?
Well, the thing with Anthony Richardson, Richardson, though, is I kind of talked about this a handful of times. Is it's easy to compare to what we've seen recently. This is, I guess, the best way I can try to explain this and go through this in the offseason, right? We like to use similar players or comparative guys and look at similar situations and kind of use like this is a roadmap and a guide. And I think there's sometimes, Mike, especially with a kid that's as athletic as him, like there's certain times and certain players. I know this is not a process move that makes a lot of sense for people, that because everybody wants to say it's A plus B equals C, right? Whatever your formula is, everybody wants that formula. But there's some guys that come in and you can say, listen, this is the biggest, most athletic guy in combination we've ever seen. Like he could just be so good as an athlete, even in the NFL, which is hard to imagine, that he doesn't even have to be a good quarterback. Right, and he can just matter in fantasy now. I mean, it's a concussion. I think it didn't look like it was a bad play for him. But the one thing that will be interesting is if he does have this type of volume running, like, you know, is there injuries? And that might be something that gets in his way. But Mike, I mean, the way this kid is playing, no ceilings is not even a lie. Like, I think the other thing that's crazy is, like you just hit on, he had the concussion. He's quarterback 8, and he exited in the second quarter. Like,
right.
There's going to be a blow-up game, Mike.
QB3 or QB4 total.
Right, like come one of these Sunday recaps, Mike. I'm gonna have to find the craziest blow-up, because I'm telling you, he's gonna break anything that happened this year.
I think I can see one of these games. I feel sorry for my ears too when that hologram comes on. Like, you probably blow them out.
Did you? You might have to like turn the dial just a titch. You know,
just a little bit. Just a
little. Yeah, I know that one with Mike Evans. I scared you pretty good.
So I talked about, like, I feel like from a start-sit perspective, I made a bad choice starting Deshaun Watson over Dak Prescott. Total AWoRP, though, for the season, both Lamar and Deshaun are over Dak. Now, none of them are really rosy or pretty, but AWoRP is telling me that was the right play. Interesting one. And for all those people, I made a trade for Brock Purdy.
What people?
He's still QB 23 in AWoRP, so, you know, just pump the fucking brakes here just a little bit, folks. Just a little bit. Some of these other ones, Joe Burrow, third worst quarterback in the entire league. Who saw that one coming? Oh.
I mean, nobody saw that coming. this is one of those, Mike, that's hard. It's hard with him because I saw a scenario, like in my mind, in my heart, I'm like, they play the Browns. I know that's not a great matchup for him. I saw a gate, like him possibly coming out of the gates and not being Joe Burrow, but nobody's going to project this, right? And like, there's also talk of, does he need to sit? And I mean, if you playing that bad, there probably should be talk of him needing to sit. He's obviously not right.
I'll fly through here. We'll go through the running back position. I'll try to get all these AWoRPs out of the way, just the ones that I thought were really interested.
Knock them out.
And then we'll get to a few questions here that we got in the chat and then bounce out of here, Adam. But number one AWoRP running back, surprise, surprise, Christian McCaffrey. As long as he's healthy and the 49ers keep feeding him holy Santa Claus shit, he's going to break fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, literally it's all health. If this workload stays the same and he's healthy, good night, Irene. This guy is going to break off everything, man. It's over.
This is gross to say, man, but I got to stop shitting on this dude's name and acknowledge the fact that he's played really, really well. Brian Robinson, number 2 running back in the entire league in AWoRP.
Listen, man, I made a hologram where he's got his arms up and he's looking directly at Mike. So make sure you go take a look at that because.
Right. How about these for like these dumpster fire? Any RB on a 53 like this, kind of force yourself into starting these guys, right? Okay. Like Scott Connor talks about with his roster construction.
Kyron?
Nope.
Okay.
Raheem Mostert.
Yeah. Mostert's been getting a lot of buzz like ever since the Jeff Wilson injury, especially like it really turned up, right?
Yep. Bijan, Tony Pollard, Saquon, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift. Pretty nice bounce back from not doing fuck all week 1 to doing so much week 2 and how it averages.
One touch for no yards and then
correct. No targets, no catches.
Yeah. 1 touch for 0 yards and then a blow up week in week 2 and he's right back in the mix.
He's right up there. James Cook. I feel vindicated, man. James Cook, RB9 on the season so far in AWoRP. Does feel good. Does feel a little bit good. You kind of got your normal cast of characters. Let's see if anybody else stands out here. I mean, let's just say Nick Chubb is one of a kind, right? And he'll have those monster games, right? But so far in the season, if you're just looking at AWoRP, he was RB21. So,
well, don't give that too much credence because
right.
How much did he play last game?
Correct. But I think he still had like 60-some yards or something before he went out, didn't he?
Because you know what it was about to be?
It was about to be one of them.
Did you see what Ford did after he left?
Yeah.
I mean, there was 200 yards on the table for Chubb.
I get you. It could have been very well. He could be the number 1 running back.
I mean, he could have been in the conversation of a lot different. So, but I get your point.
As bad as Josh Jacobs was this last week, still RB23 in AWoRP.
Well, I mean, here's what I do think about AWoRP, though. I guess it depends on your league. Unless you're in one of these running back heavy leagues, what I mean by that is the line is very different than the wide receivers and stuff. Running back 23, who gives a shit, man?
I get you.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Let me see. I was trying to look.
Here's one. Najee Harris.
Way down there. Bad.
Fizzle says RB nothing. Let me get a number.
37.
Right what about
behind
Jalen Warren?
Najee Harris right behind Ezekiel Elliott, right in front of Jamal Williams.
The Najee things and looking. The big problem for Najee is, one, it was very heavy work and usage from him early on, which because of the first round draft capital, the way the Steelers use running backs, we expected that to continue. That's not happening, and on top of that, Mike, this offense is not anywhere near as good, and the offensive line has been a big problem the last couple seasons. So,
and I'd give you the Jalen Warren one, but he doesn't make the page out of 46 running back entries on AWoRP, so that should tell you what you need to know there too. We have such stud names on here like Elijah Mitchell and Deion Jackson and Josh Kelly and Damian Harris. And Jalen Warren can't even make the page, so I wouldn't be taking victory laps on fucking Jalen Warren yet.
I mean, the victory lap is more. The victory lap isn't really Jalen Warren. It's that he was enough of a problem to Najee that Najee's just in trouble.
Fair. Wide receivers, Adam.
Let's get to the receivers, man. This is the juicy stuff. I think everybody wants to hear this.
Listen, old man wide receivers, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, 3 and 4 respectively. You know, Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson making up 1 and 2. But those old heads being up there so high. What's up? Smitty, DeVonta Smith, the Slim Reaper, number 5.
Number 5, okay.
Number 5, Nico Collins, Number 6. I think we got to start putting some respect on this dude's name a little.
I think I'll say this. He had an unbelievable game last week, right? I think he's one of those, Mike, where like I did that, video today, and I think a lot weekly on buys and people that make sense to buy because it's a lot of the market for me, right? It's a lot of what everybody else is saying is the reasons I like to buy people, right? If you notice the people I said to buy today, they're not like, oh yeah, here's Puka Nacua. Like, I'm not telling you to go buy the ones that are surging out of this world and maybe not attainable, right?
Yeah.
So the thing with Nico for me, the reason I bring that up is, Mike, if everybody was cool on him, okay, yeah. But I think the problem now is like there's enough buzz around him that's what does the cost look like? And I think the thing for me is going to be with him, like this offense, there's a lot of garbage time points, but there's probably going to be some weeks where Nico has a down week. And it doesn't mean he's a bad receiver. It's just, I think, the offense. So I think we got to put some respect on his name, to your point. But I kind of want to see a little more of sample size for a guy like him because he balled out last week. I'm not trying to hate on the kid. I just want to see a little more.
Speaking of a Puka, too, wide receiver 10, and he's so far down in there because almost nobody universally started in week 1, right? Didn't hit that threshold. So
the crazy part about that is too, Mike, I'm one of the heaviest questions I was asked in DMs, and we got plenty on the start sit is Puka Nacua. Because like part of the wide receiver 10 thing is I think there's plenty of people that did not start in week 2 even.
Right. What else we got here? Oh, how about this one? Jacoby Myers coming in at wide receiver 18 without even playing last week. It's so good in week 1. Didn't even need to play last week. Still stayed.
If you're waiting on your Myers to come back and save you, you don't have to really worry because Renfro and nobody else really did anything for their team, right?
Say opposite side of the coin, right? T. Higgins, wide receiver 20, from doing nothing in week 1 to blow it up in week 2.
I mean, literally nothing. Like he's wide receiver 20 on 1 week.
Yeah, literally. Mm-hmm. That's nuts. Jaden Reed, wide receiver 25. This was Maddie was glowing about him last night when we were talking. Glowing.
Yeah,
glowing.
I heard it.
It was audio only. I'm sure you could hear it through the audio, but
I know Maddie well enough to kind of. I would love to have the video, but I do know
he had this purple aura.
It was an aura.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like I know the guy well enough now to kind of like visualize it. It would have been nice to actually see it in person, but it is what it is. I think with Jaden Reed though, Mike, I'm excited. I have plenty of shares of him. One of the guys that even in lineup, Mike, he was right on the edge for me where you could probably, some people are like, nah, I don't want to swing on him. He could be a roster clogger. For me, it was getting to the point where his value was falling so much, and he was one of the last receivers I'd even swing on in a lineup league. So I have plenty in best ball and in lineup of Jaden Reed. I think that this is one of those where, Mike, I want to see more because there's 6 catches for less than 100 yards and there's 2 touchdowns that are really propping him up. I'm not saying Jaden Reed can't be great. I'm not saying that there's not things to like, but I think there's also, given the sample size, like I want to see a little more before I'm crowning Jaden Reed. But I'm excited for him. I have plenty of shares and I'm very excited. I've been shopping them and no one's really biting yet, but I have a lot to distribute, so hopefully I'll get something done.
Yeah. And now into the not so goods here.
Okay.
Drake London, 42.
With a good week 2.
Right. 1 spot ahead of Tutu Atwell, who I can guarantee nobody started week 1.
Except in best ball leagues.
Yeah. Jamar Chase, 47, Adam. Behind Bobby Woods and Sky Moore. Woof.
I mean, Mike, I think
I know it's not going to be this bad all season, but
no,
damn.
It's a horrible start, but like I didn't even feel like it was worth even discussing putting him on a buy list. Like I don't think there's a real panic yet, man, at all.
Yeah.
Like I really don't.
We did see him in one of the leagues we play in though. He got traded. No, he went for I saw that one too, but he went for basically Bijan straight up. It was a swap.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think the Chase side even got the 3rd, right? Like the juice.
That's stupid.
And I'm just saying, I would have rather have taken the Chase side and the pick.
I mean, forget the 3rd for a second. I just want the Chase side.
Right.
Wherever you put the 3rd, I want the Chase side. But yeah, I'm with you.
I thought that was very interesting. I did see those, and then I thought we did see a trade with CD and CD in a second or something.
Let me you know what? Here's an actionable piece of advice from someone in the chat. So this is a friend of ours, T-Rock. He writes articles, and one thing articles. They're very good. I'm getting ready. Very good. You got to the one thing we do here at 40 Chess in South Harmon is we give our props before we shit on them, and
give them props before we take a dump.
I mean, listen, great articles. I even told him fantastic article today, mind blown. And the thing is though, I talk about this a lot, and you see in my buys, a lot of times they're not. You're gonna listen and hear this player, and it's not gonna be one of these that get the dopamine going in your head right away, right? It's not like, oh man, this is this. Oh yeah, I want to buy this guy. You're kind of probably thinking, ugh. But then you have to listen and realize why. Maybe all right, maybe I'm more sold on buying this player. What you're not going to do is get Jaden Reed and DeAndre Swift coming off of their big weeks for one Jahan Dotson.
Yeah.
That's forget me for a second. Those are the type of trades that fish don't even go for those, man, because it's the timing is terrible. Not even forget values for a second. You're trying to sell one receiver for another that probably realistically there's might be keep trade cut big differences, but really there's not a ton of difference as far as what you think you're going to get in a difference maker in a lineup league. And then you're getting the second player, both of which are coming off of good weeks for yours that hasn't done shit in 2 weeks, really. So forget the names, forget me, forget T-Rock. That is the opposite. That is one-dimensional chess. Here. Take this.
One-dimensional chess. I love it. All right. Adam, tight ends. AWoRP God, TJ Hawkinson, and it isn't fucking close.
Last week you went bananas, and we haven't seen Kelce and Andrews both play in 2 weeks. And then they actually both had,
good games.
But not blow-up games. So, but yeah, Hawk week 2 was... Especially, Mike, we're talking about this Madison thing, right? And how Chandler, they can't run. I mean, goodness.
Yeah.
There's upside for Hawk, man. There really is.
Hunter Henry, AWoRP God.
I like how, it feels like, Mike, it honestly feels like seasons ago when Mike was, Hunter Henry is going to be a thing and all that. That was like a wet fart, man. You remembered it for a little bit, but it was gone and, gone with the wind, man. Here it is, coming to fruition. He can't even enjoy it because he left the take so soon.
Evan Ingram and Sam LaPorta. I am so fucking sorry for doubting Sammy fucking ball game ever. When I'm like, oh, he's tight end 10, fucking trade him.
What are you doing?
Trade him, y'all are crazy.
What are you doing,
bro? Dude, if I got Sammy ball game, I'm just fucking holding on with diamond hands.
Come on.
No more fucking shares of Sammy LaPorta are getting traded off of my squads. Guaranteed. Fuck y'all. I'm holding him, man. I'm done. I'm in. He's coming out. He's number 4 in AWoRP, Adam, as a rookie. And he has a massive role in that offense. A massive role.
Well, he does, but what does that really mean?
It means he's on the trajectory of being the next AWoRP God, just like his brother, TJ Hawkinson.
You mean Kyle Pitts?
Who's that? Where's he at? Shit, let me scroll.
Mm-hmm.
How far? Oh, fuck, you don't even... There we go. 27?
There you go.
Right behind Noah Gray. Woo! Shit. No, I love some Sammy LaPorta. I'm honestly shocked you want my honest analysis? I'm shocked he's this fucking involved from the get-go and this big of a part of the offense. They run routes specifically for Sammy LaPorta.
Look at
Let's
this
go,
kid, man.
I'm glowing.
I cannot even turn the cameras off, man.
From 2 fucking years ago when Ray told me I ain't scouting this fucking guy. Get out of here, Mike. To where we are now, Sammy LaPorta.
I'm out here, no sleep. Daughter's out here, causing havoc. I can't handle this type of glowing. Look at the pure joy of this kid.
It's like Maddie's back on here talking about Jaden Reed.
All right, next. What else we got?
Next. But yeah, I see T-Rock trying to take shots in there, but Hayden Hurst still tight end 6 in AWoRP, so tight ends still don't matter. Other than Sammy LaPorta, TJ Hawkinson.
I mean,
Let's go.
I think I want to see how this tight end room develops weekly because, like, for example, we talk about they don't matter, but I think the one thing I'm very curious on is because of having to start, like, I would say, like, by and large, you, myself, Koopa, all agree in principle. Anyone that sees it can say, yeah, man, this is like, I think I even said, this basically tells you that you want to have zero value and just start whatever shitter, like the worst shitter you could find. But will any human do that? Now, remove the human element for a second. Let's not even talk about that. The one thing I'm curious about is like a guy like Hayden Hurst, right, for example, or a Hunter Henry. Because there's really the dynasty value when you say, I'm going to go shop this player. Like, Mike, we saw this type of shit with Tyler Conklin. We have seen tight ends get in this type of range where they're producing for your fantasy team. In AWoRP, they kind of matter. Like, even last year, Gerald Everett was, around 1. And, like you can make the case, well, he's around 1 because you're starting him every week, and that helps you with – but that's part of the thing. That's part of it. Like, for me, if there's so minimal dynasty value in a guy like Hayden Hurst or a guy like Hunter Henry, and I'm moving him for, at best, a third, like, that's where the conversation for me is – like, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying I think that's where I think we can have a real discussion of, am I better off having that player just – boom, I'm starting him. He's basically my low-ass value, but possibly top 5, 10 warp guy versus that third. And what am I going to actually make happen with that pick? I'm not saying you can't do it and it can't work out, but I think that's where the discussion for me is not clear. That's the way I would say that.
I think for me, I go more from the standpoint of if I have any tight end that's worth a second in general market value or above.
I would agree with you there.
Other than Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, those are the dudes I'm still fucking moving. And if you want to throw TJ Hockenson into this conversation now, I think at least through the first 2 weeks we can have a discussion about TJ Hockenson maybe being in that discussion.
I'm with you. The only thing with him will be is like if he has a dud week, like does his value stay where you can still trade out of him? That's the only difference with him. But I'm with you. Like you can make the case.
So like Hunter Henry, Hayden Hurst, they don't fall into that category where I know from market I'm getting a second, right?
Correct.
Those are kind of going to be the guys.
And that's in tight end premium leagues, right?
Yeah, those are the guys I'm going to build my AWoRP tight end room around, right?
I would agree there.
I'm going to have some.
What about Gerald Everett? Does he kind of fall in that same thing, or does he think he might be able to go second?
Yeah.
Okay.
You might have because it was the Chargers offense and that whole appeal. Like that might have been, but Hunter Henry, fuck no. Nobody was giving you a second for Hunter Henry. No one was giving you a second for Hayden Hurst. So what I'm saying, Adam, is like my AWoRP approach for tight end. I'm starting at the top. I'm starting with the Pitts. I'm starting with the Goddards and the Freiermuths and the David Njokus, like these 100%.
Guys. Those guys
that people think matter. And I'm
Sam
shipping
LaPorta.
them all. Yep. And I'm seeing what's left in my tight end room. It's going to be like Hunter Henry or Hayden Hurst. And my backup tight end is going to be a fucking Adam Troutman. It's going to be a Durham Smythe. Like it's going to be one of these shitters where nobody's giving me fuck all in a trade.
Right.
Where if Hayden Hurst is banged up this week, I'm starting fucking Durham Smythe. Like I don't have this choice of every single week. I don't want a bunch of Hunter Henrys and Hayden Hurst on my team. I only want like one of them. I make my bet. This is the dude I'm starting every single week. And then, if for whatever reason they're fucking out, they're hurt, whatever. I'm putting the next shitter that I found on waivers. Like that's how I'm running AWoRP tight ends from the standpoint that tight ends don't matter. I'm not saying like I'm just going to sell Hayden Hurst for a fourth just to get him off my team. Right? I'm with you. He's not worth a lot to begin with, but like generally if you got this second type value or better, see ya.
And I would agree that I think that's where like the conversation for me happens. Now, you can make the case. I'm not saying I'm 100% right here. I'm just saying I think that's where it's not clear for me. It's a little gray area because you could also make the case, well, hey, I'm going to liquidate for a third. I'm going to go replace with one of these other ones down the line. My biggest thing with AWoRP, though, is at a cost that's that minimal. Now, if we get to a second, for example, let's say Hunter Henry now has 4 good weeks in a row. All of a sudden, like someone's buying for a second, okay, I don't care who it is any longer, they can go, right? Like to the point we're making here. Because I think that type of draft capital or even – let's say it's a down tier at tight end or something. Okay, these are the type of trades I'll make. The difference is if I'm just liquidating for a third, I have to. You can definitely can make the case. Now I can package this third to a second and go get a player at a different position. All that I get for the dynasty value. My biggest thing is when I clear out all of my tight ends. Right now, I'm just saying I'm just taking whatever shitter. Part of the nice thing when having a low value tight end like a Hunter Henry is the decision making process is gone. I think that's one of the highlights for AWoRP for me is I basically say this is my tight end. I don't have to worry. I'm not going to the wire unless someone gets hurt, because one of the things about the wire that's dangerous, I think we have to really think about this in AWoRP. When you say you can go to the wire and get anyone, I'm not saying you can't, but guess what? You can almost in the AWoRP discussion, Mike, just say everybody on the wire is a start-sit decision for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Which one are you picking? Good
I get you.
Fucking luck.
So in the tight end room too, like you highlighted Mark Andrews as one. Didn't play week 1. Comes back.
What's his?
Number 7. That's how fucking disgusting the tight end landscape is. Where
that's Andrews, why with those guys you just have to you want to have them. They're too good.
Travis Kelce, same thing. He came back. He's tight end 12 overall in AWoRP after not playing a week. Right. Just barely getting edged out by old man Zach Ertz, who's actually having a pretty nice start to a season.
Not just that, Mike. Look at the target volume.
Right.
Steady Eddie targets. I mean,
right.
One of the things he's probably a guy that doesn't fetch second value anymore, so he might be one I'd sink my teeth into as well if I had a share of him. I'm not buying any of those tight ends, by the way. I'm not sending liquid draft capital away for them.
Listen, before I piss people off, but I understand he's a rookie. Let me caveat with that. But remember all that Dalton Kincaid hype, right? 0.158 on the WoRP. He comes in at tight end 9, which people will probably do victory laps until you go down and you look at Dawson Knox, who people wrote off as dead, at tight end 13 at 0.128 WoRP. Like, a massive different.
Dalton Kincaid stands are really rejoicing in that. They're saying, listen, y'all just wait, because when Knox is gone, as you would say, Dalton Schultz is gone, right? Like, as soon as this guy's out of here, guess what? They're going to merge and become one baby, and Dalton Kincaid is going to be the man.
Number 1 Seattle tight end, Noah Fant. Would you look at that? Tight end 16. Woof. Still, we'll take that.
That tight end room is it's just I hate
let me highlight some tight ends though that people spent draft capital on, talked about, and really liked, and that have done fuck all so far this year. Yeah. George Kittle, 21. David Njoku, 22. Dalton Schultz, there's a few people out there still pounding the table because it's Houston and no target competition, that whole thing. 23.
CJ Stroud's on the ball.
Dallas Goedert, 24. And this one hurts for me to say. Juwan Johnson, 25. Pitts, of course, he's bad, 27. We talked about him. Chig, 30. 30. And you remember what it was going to be, the Patty F show, Pat Freiermuth? He's right behind superstar Greg Dulcich, who's on IR at 33.
But he caught a touchdown, Mike.
I know. No one cares.
Listen, I hate to be the guy that says I told you so about Chig, but
no thanks.
I mean, there's going to be weeks where he looks better, but look at this offense that you bring over Nuke late, right? Traylon's playing. I mean,
Traylon's got a roll.
You have as you put eloquently, Mike, not in the South Harmon way, he was efficient. You have an efficient quarterback, which describes basically someone that's not going to get a bunch of – he's not going to have these crazy stat lines, which supports 4 miles. I mean, Derrick Henry's still going to get a ton of totes. Like, it's – Tajay Spears is even getting some work in there. Like, there's not a lot of opportunity in this offense to feed people.
The other thing that I just want to point out, too, we looked at a fuck ton of WoRP graphs, for going back years, too, right? I used to fight you about – you can't make all your quarterback determinations just on 22. It was a bad year for quarterbacks with injuries and that kind of stuff. While the top 4 looks good and then it drops off, let's look at other years, right? So far, AWoRP-wise, on this year and the totality of AWoRP, Adam, a quarterback doesn't crack the top 15. Doesn't crack yet. So
top 15 player overall?
Yep, as far as WoRP goes.
Of course. And I think that's where, especially at that position, I think part of the reason I said, and I made sure to say with buying Russell Wilson, it's a small sample size. That's one where, Mike, the sample size will end up telling a story that really, I think, polarized. Right. It stretches it out to show you how different they are, because Josh Allen, right? So many of these guys, even Lamar, who didn't bounce all the way back, had a better week 2. You're going to see these guys, by and large, have more of the boom weeks than you do have these bad ones, and it's going to start. It's going to start pulling these numbers further apart, in my opinion.
I think we're in line here in the next couple weeks to have some of those, monster quarterback performances. Where like the dude scores 50. 55,
They're
60.
They're getting in the rhythm a little bit,
70
right?
in some of these scoring formats, right? Like
Rich, comes out there and just blows one.
Lights it. Listen, you will be fucking insufferable if that happens.
It was about to happen week 2. I had the whole hologram ready. It was going to be awesome, but we'll wait another week.
Well, there we go. There's some early season dynasty strategy, some psychology about especially those struggling teams, but and then the AWoRP behind it, which I wanted to highlight. And like I said, once we get 3-4 weeks of data, I'll be able to almost do a full fucking show on AWoRP and some of my trends that I'm spotting. But what do we got for questions? We had a lot of people in the chat tonight. See if we can get some of these answered here before we bounce out of here.
Of course. All right. Well, let's see. What are your thoughts on Kyren at this point? I think we already kind of touched on that.
On the recap,
I love Kyren's workload. I am in on Kyren Williams, but we did discuss tonight, Mike, the problem with buying him currently is an injury comes his way and there's no value insulation. What you spent is gone. I personally, Mike, I've seen enough from this offense which has nothing. Like, what's frustrating about Cam Akers? Is it feels like every reason I was in on Cam Akers the last 2 years is right. It's just not Cam Akers.
Right, it's somebody else.
Like it's got to be the most insufferable.
Profile.
You talk about insufferable. Like it is the worst. Like week 1, so excited, and then I'm watching versus the Bills. It was the first game versus the Bills that Thursday, and like Akers isn't even out there.
Let me ask you this
week 1, and then now week 2 he's not even playing. It's like, dog. So that's why I'm in on Kyren Williams though, because he has the role that Cam Akers was supposed to have. I thought.
Right.
And Kyren looks great.
Would it be more palatable if it was Zach Evans doing this instead of Kyren Williams?
Honestly, no, because can I tell you why? Because that means the reason that would be worse is that means Cam Akers just has an attitude problem. Because I think Zach Evans is the same exact idea of what Cam Akers is. He's not necessarily the best of. I think Kyren Williams. The thing is, part of McVay is he wants to be completely. This is where I personally think it's as simple as this, Mike, when it comes down to Akers and when it comes down to McVay. McVay wants to go into any play he runs. The personnel, all that doesn't matter, and it's you don't know what I'm doing, there's no tell. And with Cam Akers, he is so undependable for Sean McVay in pass pro. He does not trust him so much that it's immediately a tell. Mike, he played 35% of snaps, and he had 22 carries. So I think, understand, it's actually, like, from a football standpoint, I think McVay hates the fact that that's a tell, and it causes this rift where they can't coexist. So the point of Zach Evans, I think, is the same idea as Akers, just not as good. So that's why it makes a ton of sense with Kyren, because he can trust him and use him in all these roles, and it's almost like when he's in there, people don't expect him to run all these touches.
Here's a pro tip. If you got a running back that struggles in pass pro, put him out in a pattern to fucking start with. Like, who gives a shit?
There you go.
It's like, nah, we need to leave this thumper in here who can't do shit just because he picks up. Then play an extra offensive lineman and stop putting a running back on the field, you fucks.
I know. It's – yeah.
Play your third string tight end. I don't give a shit. Like, I always fucking hate seeing running backs in on pass pro. Like, unless you're just chipping. Like, you give a little chip, a little shot to the fucking defensive end, like a Myles Garrett, a TJ Watt, like one of those dudes just to slow him down. But get your ass out in the route. Like, I want an option. I don't want you back here. Max protect is for pussies.
Yeah, but Mike, right? it's in the football standpoint. Not this. Not that you're not making good points. It's that these coaches, like it. Especially like an offensive mind like McVay, they hate feeling handicapped. Like they want to know that they can have him pass pro, and he got blown up multiple times, and he just doesn't trust him. So there you go. RIP. By the way, Kareem Hunt visiting Cleveland. Cam Akers probably just going to keep sitting and rotting. But Kyren Williams is the point here.
I'll be more aggressive buying Kyren Williams in the best ball, and I say more aggressive by like draft capital standpoints, because what we talked about at the early part of the show. Listen, Adam, if I'm putting like a second plus into buying Kyren Williams, even though I may love the role, that could be fucking gone tomorrow through injury, through whatever. Maybe the Rams lose Stafford, and all of a sudden this offense is fucking run by. It's not even Stetson Bennett anymore because that dude's on the NFI list. Like whoever the fuck it would be.
See, I think what makes Kyren. I'm just gonna say this. I think what makes Kyren so. I'm so much more willing to go against the grain of my process with him. In lineup, I'm with you. It's a lot less appealing to do it now. However, I would still probably do it on that end because, like, the thing about him is, if you're telling me this is the workload he's gonna get, like Cam Akers inactive day of, right? So now maybe Zach Evans is gonna get a little more run. One thing to keep in mind, right? But if you told me that his week 2 usage is what he's going to get, Mike, there's no issue. I don't care what it's going to be, Stetson Bennett, if they're up or down, he's going to get his because he's going to be out there on third downs. He's going to be getting these like you talk about chipping and little, dink and dunk passes that turn into 10, 15 yards. There's no he's getting the goal line work. I don't care what the offense is. I don't care if they're up, down. This is one of the backs that sneakily is like out there all the time and has looked good enough doing it on an offense that really isn't like O-line's not that great. Give me Kyren Williams for a second, man, almost anywhere.
I got you. I'm with you.
The only thing is just in lineup, I would be a little more hesitant just of if you only have one. Yeah.
Yep. Could I get by with maybe spending a third on somebody who's a little bit shittier?
Right. I mean, you definitely could. It just depends what your affinity is for those shittier backs.
Can I spend a third on Jerome Ford?
I think those days are gone.
Think so?
I'll tell you right now, I've seen offers, and I'm getting questions on Elijah Moore or Jerome Ford. I don't think Elijah Moore's a third, so.
I get you. Fair.
I'm not. I think that's one of those like, yeah, I'd love to have Jerome Ford for a third, even if they bring in Hunter, whatever. But I doubt it. You never know.
All right, what we got from T-Rock here?
Question: if you were in a team that was wonderfully constructed with a strength at quarterback, do you trade these guys now while they are hot, or do you take the risk and hold them? So you're telling me you're basically when you have strength at quarterback, you're telling me you're in a quarterback hoard, or you just have like high-end quarterback assets? I think there's a difference there.
I did see him put in the chat, one of the quarterbacks he's referring to is Love. The other is Russ. Right? So when we were talking about him from the AWoRP standpoint, listen, I would try to sell Jordan Love if it's. I think he's been fine, Adam, but I'm going to capitalize on people thinking that this touchdown rate is sustainable. While the yards may come back up, he's also going to have some super shitty games, and we just found out too that they can't run the ball with Aaron Jones not in there. AJ Dillon's god awful.
Sure. I mean, I would say this. I would like to sell Jordan Love off of right now the hype that he's looked good enough, competent the first 2 games. I will say though, the quarterback landscape also lends me to say like I'm not just gonna ditch him, right? Like
yeah. Especially because like the way it is right now, we haven't had knock on wood, but we know it's coming at some point. Like a whole lot of big quarterback injuries. We had the Aaron Rodgers thing go down, but we haven't
talked
had
about it with the running back,
superstars.
But it's knock on wood again. But Mike, it's just inevitable that quarterbacks are going to get hurt. It's part of the game. Everybody, there's players on all these teams that get hurt. We'd love to have a season where all the quarterbacks, that everyone's rostered, stay healthy for the most part. But
I mean, we might have it this week. I don't think it's true, but there's the whispers about Joe Burrow not playing this week, right? So, like, we might have the first one. Not that he's been fucking good the first 2 weeks, but that's still somebody that people roster constructed on and relied on. And all of a sudden now, if he's ruled out, people go, "Fuck,
right?
What am I doing? Shit, Jordan Love looks really good. Hey, what can I get for Jordan Love? Like, it might be the opportunity to trade him there."
I'm gonna be honest though, T-Rock. This comes down to a couple things, and it's literally simple. In psychology, Mike, to get back to what we're really talking about with some of the stuff in the first part of the episode is what can you actually extract? What are the deals that you can get done in your market? I can sit up here and tell you, yes, at quarterback 26, Russell Wilson's a buy. I can say that at quarterback 14 or whatever Jordan Love is, he's an absolute sell. Okay, that's a freaking algorithm computer that every person in the world's typing into, and who knows even what they're actually carrying. You're in a league with 8.
Yeah.
9, 11 other people, right? What do they say? What's on the table? What can you get done? So that's the first thing, the psychology element, and how do you get it done, and what are you ultimately comfortable trading them away for? I would personally like to sell Jordan Love if I can tear down from him and get a older, more stable quarterback and a plus, or if I can just liquidate him for, more than a first, like a first and a second or something like that. If I had extra quarterbacks to play with, I'd probably do that as well. I think those are the things that I'm doing for Jordan Love. I think with Russell Wilson, unless his market in your league is significantly different than what I've seen in a lot of leagues that I'm in, I don't see people buying him. So unless your market's different, like I'm holding Russell Wilson, and I would love to trade Jordan Love if I can actually extract the value that I think he should be getting.
Yeah, and the QB hoard principles still come into play too, right? Like you got a little mini
don't give
QB
somebody
hoard
that is desperate. The Rodgers owner who's struggling. Don't just gift them a quarterback when they don't need it.
What did I get today, Adam? For finally, a year and a few months in to the QB hoard in the Expo League. I got JSN for Goff, and then I got a bunch of seconds and thirds.
By the way, I just want to say on a getting out of here. It's amazing because I think it was, it's actually about a year ago now. There was this video that started to get some traction. It was 6 months ago. The fantasy football trade hack and just the haters coming out of the woodworks. This is going to kill your relationships in your leagues. You clown, all this stuff. Mike, that's been out there with 30,000 views. Everybody here has heard this a million times. Guess what happens?
That's what I pulled.
60% of the time it works. Every time.
It was a great trade. I hit you up too. I set it up I like the offer to begin with, right? I can get off a QB hoard for an asset like JSN. I get some draft capital back, and Adam too. We talked about in the QB hoard episode, you just need the first one, right? Now everybody sees that this guy actually has quarterbacks that's competing. So anybody else who was sitting there going I wanted to compete is evaluating their QB room, and the only person they can go to is the market of McNutt. And if you think I was reasonable on the first one, you're gonna hate the second one. You're gonna hate the prices on there, but. Same kind of thing you were talking about, Adam. I said it to you, and I go, I like it. Do you think I should pull the ATM on it? Do you think I should do that where I make a completely new deal that's on the basic, the same thing that I sent, and just add a piece? And I did. I added an extra third, and I sent it away, and within a couple minutes it got accepted. But I was sitting there looking at my phone the minute I see that get rejected, I'm going, waiting.
It's a little adrenaline rush too that kind of just helps you feel alive again. For that extra third, Mike's just waiting with anticipation at his phone.
Hold out. If you got a little QB hoard though, hold out, right? We haven't seen a lot of injuries. We haven't seen a lot of bad stuff from the QB position yet. That's going to come.
Here's the thing. To that point, I was going to say the reason I said that I'm probably not selling Russ unless someone's paying, significantly over what market says.
His market isn't number one.
His market's terrible. When I did my buys, I was actually just going through unbiased. None of those guys I was heavily attached to this offseason. I did talk Russ up a little bit, but going through and just looking at things, and I'm thinking to myself, I've been a proponent of Russell Wilson this offseason, but I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, they did have the touchdown, the Hail Mary, but even take that out. He's still top 5, top 6. What am I missing? Why is his value not changing at all? He's playing better. It's he's just that hated. It's all the stuff that happened last year. We just will not forget.
The crazy thing, Adam, you pulled up the keep trade cut stuff, so I just pulled it up to look. I'm I wonder if Adam has influenced. It's down 11 spots, and this is the number one AWoRP fucking quarterback in the league. What are we doing?
I do think part of
How do you go down?
Can I tell you why? I think part of the keep trade cut errors, though, that'll be interesting as this continues to go on is, see, Mike, when you go to a computer and you have no attachment to any of these players, your roster construction, what are you going to do? You're going to talk up the sexy, exciting. Those are the ones you're going to put. You know what no one's saying to themselves, even when he's tight end 1? Yeah, I want that Russell Wilson. So they're never going to answer keep. They're never answering keep with Russell no matter what he's getting, right? So I think that's part of the error. But I would say this. To that point, though, Mike, one thing we haven't even touched on is you have injuries that are likely to come, but even you got buys, right? Buys are going to start before you know it, and all of a sudden You have buys, you have injuries, and there's totally different discussion. So unless you can trade Jordan Love for a trade that you actually prefer and you're comfortable with, like, I'm not just moving them to move them, right? Like, this is, again, T-Rock, where if you want to be a part of us, if you want to be a part of the South Harmon community, this is a lifestyle, man. This isn't just a, like, I got to get rid of these quarterbacks before they burn a hole in my pocket. This is a lifestyle.
We get to enjoy 2 more weeks without buys. 2 more weeks.
Fizzle, I hate to say this, but this is easy Tajay Spears for me because Cam Akers doesn't have a home. We don't know where he's going to end up. He's also now his value basically off of his rookie contract at this point is gone. Love the talent, love the kid, but it's just not there. Tajay Spears, even if he's behind Henry for another year on the rookie contract, and there's a chance he ends up walking into a good role when Henry actually does implode at some point. We never know when it could be. Maybe it never happens, but that's baked into his value. So
God damn it. What is the NFL doing too? This week we got 2 Monday night games again. That fucking hate it. Stop it.
I don't hate it.
I don't mind them. You remember the old school ones though? They'd start one at at least my time was 6:30 Central.
Yeah, but you know what would happen?
7:30 on. And then they'd always play the West Coast teams,
but you know what happens?
The Raiders or
the East Coast viewership and ratings get killed on.
Fuck them. Fuck the East Coast.
I got bad news for you, Mike, and everyone listening. All right, at the end of the day, I don't care what you say to yourself and the stories you tell yourself before you go to bed. Every decision that they ever make in that league is all about money, and they don't care. You know what they say every time when they change it? They're saying the same thing, fuck them, and they're talking about you, the fan. They care about the money. That's all they care about, buddy. So, anyway, we've went way off the rails tangents here.
Get us out of here.
This is why we don't do questions on 4D Chess. We just, talk, and we get a couple questions, but we can get off the rails too easy. I thought it was a good discussion, though, just going through some AWoRP stuff. Right now, I think it's a little bit new, and it's... Keep your pulse on it, but don't overreact to the AWoRP yet until we get enough sizable information. And just remember, when your league mates are playing chess, play 4D Chess.
That's going to do it. We'll see you back here same time, same place next week on the 4D Chess Dynasty Football Podcast. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace.